David was in computers as I was. He was selling computers, and I was technical support.
Sweet.
And Tommy was in charge of cabling. You know, all the cables you need for it. So, for a few years, worked on 38th Street and 8th Avenue. And
Is that where the
Right.
Autorama?
Adorama?
Yeah.
No, they're further down.
Okay.
Then we split from the cabling division, and we formed Spantech Computers.
Okay.
And we moved downtown to Franklin Street and Broadway. So, and in 1993, I split from Spantech and formed my own company, and I worked wherever my clients were. And I essentially took 5 clients. I told them I would take 5 clients when I left the company, but I only really took 3. That's all I needed to get going. So, what kind of computer does everyone have? I don't know what that really meant. But when I started, I almost exclusively worked with IBMs. Because there were Macs weren't really making it.
Yeah.
I think Mac 2 was available, but they were basically in the home, and they were basically out west
Right.
somewhere. So
Right.
in 1991, I worked on a few Macs because they started coming into the work business place. Mostly they were advertising clients.
Right.
Let's see, most of my clients had IBMs in the office, but at home they had Macs.
Yeah, Max.
Yeah, so, and now they mostly use their phones.
Yeah, right?
Yeah,
Sell it up.
yep. So, what kind of progress has there been for computers? It was exciting to work with computers, personal computer industry from the beginning. It's all started around 1980, and computers really started in those days. In the beginning, we had almost only IBMs, and then they started coming out with the clones like Hewlett Packard and Compaq and people like that. And even though Macintosh were available, they started really coming in 1991.
What do you mean clones?
Okay, clones are exactly like the IBM with your own name on it.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
So it was like the same technology.
Yeah, IBM, what they did was they created a computer, and they let anybody else make copy, clone them, so to speak, because they thought IBM PCs would not really make it.
Really?
Yeah, so they came out, and with everybody was available to copy them or make use of any parts of it, So that's the way IBM worked. And let's see. And what kind of computers did you work with? It was mostly IBMs. I maybe had a couple of advertising clients towards the end, but most of them were IBM type clients in the office. What position? I owned the company with 2 other pals of mine. And was it satisfactory? It was harder working for myself, but I don't really know which one was better.
Okay.
I mean, working for myself or working for somebody else, they both had their pluses and minuses.
Okay.
Working for the other people, I went to work, and when I left, that was it. When I worked for myself, it was pretty much, 20 hours a day. I was thinking or was working, with my clients or my support.
Okay.
We actually had over 30 people working for me 1990 when I left. We had about 30 people working for us, and we had about 100 different clients.
Wow.
Yeah,
That's
but
a lot.
I say that 100 clients sounds like a lot, but it was really a few of them at a time needed us. I would, if you were Seagrams, it'd be a small section, and it was brand new computers, so nobody knew what to do with them. So they had to learn what they had to do with these little computers on their desk, because most of the people had a mainframe somewhere and locked in a couple of different offices, and they would. They needed a job done, they would write it up and they would hand it in. And so the PCs were something that each individual could use, but what could they do with it? And then, okay, what kind of, was it a job you could expand from? Well, it was a growing proposition. But then business was changing, because when I first started, I could start a company, right? But then, about 1990, 2000, it was too big. The big people said, "Hey, I can make money," and they got involved, and then it became too hard for a person to work by himself. So, how many changes do you have in your career? Well, in the beginning, I worked at a camera store, and that was pretty good, because the camera store had a couple of different outlets, and they were about 6 or 7 blocks apart, and I would work at either one of them, depending on where they needed me, and that was a lot of fun, because it's a computer store. I mean, it was really just a computer store, and people would come in, and they would get photo finishing, processing, and everything like that. And I get to talk to people. I worked Midtown Manhattan, and I had clients like Art Garfunkel.
Oh, really?
Really?
Yeah.
Nice.
And
Wow.
people come in all the time, just getting their pictures made, from the little rolls of film. I mean, that was something else. It was actually having to turn in little rolls of film, and or for pictures or for slides. I mean, not like today where there is no such thing. Everybody's got a little portable camera, and they can do pictures and everything else like that. So
So it's probably good that you switched.
well, that was one thing, right? And then in cameras, I worked in camera store. I did cameras.
Yeah.
And then I worked in a stereo store, a regular stereo on 45th Street, and we that was partly I worked with a couple of guys that had the stereos in the store of a bigger store where they also had other stuff like refrigerators and air conditioners and stuff like that, which was another part of the store, but it was maybe about the size of this. That's it, And we had stereo in the front, and they had the back part, So but that's where I met David. I would become my partner in the computer business. And David was one of the two partners that I had, David and Tommy. It was David who was part of me working with me on the computers, and it was Tommy who was part of the cabling, you know. And actually, you know, I mean, I made a copy of this of the things that I had, but okay.
That was a good
That was
idea.
how-
Questions we came
how
up
the
with.
questions that I answered the questions. You know, so, but anyway, it's been a very, being that Wayne is not here, I would have probably cut it right there and we would all be talking and probably eating stuff Wayne brings in. That's better than I would ever bring. But being that it's not here, it was been an interesting life so far because I worked in a camera store and I worked in a stereo store. In between, I got married. It was about 74 when I got married. That's a long time ago. And then I got involved with the J&R music world for a couple of years as they grew to a store that seemed to take over downtown Manhattan. That's where I met David and Tommy, who wanted to start something in 1980, 81, 82, in the computer industry. It was a start of something that when I stopped to think about it, would change my life forever. The IBM PC was, the PC stood for personal computer. It was smaller than the room-sized computers that people used.
Yeah. I remember 64K was the price to get.
Yeah.
Wow.
And
Wow.
and you know, because all you needed was a desk, and you had a computer on the desk, right? Tommy was going to be the cabling guy, and David was going to be a salesman for the computers when I was supposed to be the technical support. Now, being a technical support person, I didn't really have to know anything because nobody knew anything about it.
That's great.
Yeah.
Sounds like
That's-
technical support.
That's really, I mean, if I told you that when customer came by to look at the computers, we would show them one that we had set up for them, and I would sit down at a computer, and David would be standing behind me, and he was watching me, right? And the whole thing was an IBM PC, so they had the IBM name on it, right? And it had maybe one or two floppy drives, and most of you know what a floppy drive is.
That was a while ago.
No,
They have,
Of course.
it's extinct at this stage.
yeah,
It
they,
is now.
Now it is.
When I
We
was
had
a
it,
kid.
yeah, when we were kids, we had it.
Really?
Dilophosaurus
Yeah.
Rex.
yeah. I actually should have brought them in but I can only carry one thing at a time, so. Let's see. In those days, you didn't have to know a lot about computers. I mean, I would sit down, to talk, and they would be one behind me. I would turn a computer on. Now, what does that mean? It would have about 640K of RAM, and as opposed to 2 or 16 gigabytes that a computer would have today. 8K if they were just buying a computer. 8K, imagine that.
8K, man. Time
A K was a kilo, 1,000.
Good kilo.
A megabyte is a million,
That's a lot.
and a gigabyte was a billion.
Good old time.
And they were petabytes and everything like that. They go crazy now. It would have had 2 floppy drives, right? Okay, that's what I said before. And it have a green screen. It wasn't a color monitor. It would be a green screen.
Oh man, I was like 3 when they had that stuff.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
And most of them didn't have a mouse then, because mice were not available when the first PCs
Until
came out.
Microsoft invented it.
Yeah,
Good old
Yeah.
Microsoft.
I didn't know that.
So
Yeah.
what did you use
Yeah.
to navigate?
Yeah.
no, they didn't. They just typed everything in.
Oh,
Xerox.
like
It
you
was-
you didn't need one.
Right. As a matter of fact, if you didn't have a program, it would own nothing. You didn't put anything into the hard drive. I mean, to the floppies. The computer would actually just boot up to DOS, DOS, and version 1.
Oh my gosh, you don't know what DOS is?
No.
It's too old school, bro. It's too old
Yeah.
school.
DOS,
That's old school, baby.
Disk operating system.
Is that the black screen with the?
It's a green screen, and it would just be a prompt on it.
Yeah, exactly.
An A prompt, right?
Okay.
And then you would have to know that you would have to type it
Yeah,
in.
like
Anything.
exactly.
Yeah.
Like print, return.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then you would.
You would
Wow.
have would have to be exactly what you would have to type into the computer to get it to come out of it. But
Wow.
most people didn't learn that, how to program
Uh-huh.
because it was too hard. So they bought a program like WordStar in the beginning.
Look at that.
Yeah, beginning, right? Or
Which is-
Lotus 1, 2, 3.
Yeah, exactly.
Was another.
And then if you made a mistake, the computer would crash.
Sounds like a pain.
Yeah.
Wow.
Okay.
So
Now,
complicated.
all this was changing. If a client bought a computer, we would have to put one together for him, and what we do would the computer would come in a box about the size of 2 toaster ovens, big.
Good times.
Okay.
Yeah, and that was just the computer, and inside we have to take it out and take it apart with 6 screws. Would take apart the top, okay, and then you would see inside was empty except for a power supply and the motherboard, okay, and we would have to fit. We'd have to open up in those days. A floppy drives would be 1 or 2 of them, so we would have 2 more boxes, and then we'd have to get them into this other thing, right, on the motherboard. Okay, and then on next to the motherboard, we would have slots for 6 cards or so that which would give you other functions like memory, like for the monitor. You had to have a special card for a monitor, and then you had to have a memory card and then on top of the memory card we had to put in memory chips, and they were 4K chips. So that means that if you would put 4 of them in, it would have 16K. And it was so many chips, like 32 or 6,400, some odd chips. We would have to put on into each board before we gave them out to a client. So that was a lot of work too. Okay. Okay. So most clients would go with the maximum, but I remember selling them with 8K or 16K of memory, and then they would get it and they would fool around with it. So the other kinds of cards that they can put in there would be like modems or IBM cards or multi-function cards which would have the memory and the modem and stuff like that together all together. And the funny thing was, I remember in the beginning that you had to have maybe a computer serving a network. A network being, you know, a server, and you would have these other, say, 5 or 6 local computers that would connect to the server with a cable. And then you would have a 10 megabyte hard disk for this. 10 megabyte hard disk in those days used to cost like $3,000 or $4,000. Hey, there he is. Okay. So, and
You can have.
I'll come over here, so great.
yeah. So, what am I talking about?
The networks and
Yeah, network cards and everything like that. And actually, I can continue this conversation next year, let's say. When I would add more stuff to it, and I can talk about anything else that you guys would like to know about my life.
You're very knowledgeable.
Yeah.
yeah.
They were-
I have a question. Is your shirt from IBM?
Yes, this
Oh,
I wore an IBM shirt.
I noticed.
That makes
I
sense.
appreciate the details.
Yeah.
Totally makes sense.
Yes.
Did you